Hey guys, and welcome back to the KR Shy Sports channel. My name's Casper Rodwell, and today we'll be discussing a hot topic in Blackhawks news recently, and honestly throughout just the NHL. It's kind of got the insiders going a little bit crazy, and honestly the Blackhawks fan base as a whole, and the San Jose Sharks fan base too. But as many of you may know, I am talking about the Anton Frondell Michael Misa debate at number 2 and number 3 overall. To give a brief rundown, the San Jose Sharks hold the number 2 overall selection in the 2025 NHL draft right ahead of the Chicago Blackhawks. And although it's been mocked for months by scouts, insiders, anyone just in the hockey community that they'd go with Michael Misa at number 2, recently, in the past week or so, I want to say like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, there started to be some rumblings, but like, I don't know. It was definitely just taken like kind of not out of context, but just like taken by storm in the Blackhawks community only, just on Twitter and stuff from what I saw, just because we want to manifest this so bad. Like, I will not lie. This is a kind of a comparison video, but I am definitely biased towards Misa. Not saying that Anton Frondell wouldn't make me happy and excited for the future. I think he's a very solid player and prospect, but we'll have to see what happens with that. And obviously, the draft's in 2 days, so we'll all see. But as this kind of picked up traction the past few weeks, something really picked it up on Twitter. And this was when Chris Peters of Flow Hockey mocked Michael Misa to fall to the Chicago Blackhawks at number 3. And this is after Cam Robinson talked about it on his podcast with Chris Peters, called up, I believe it's like the Hockey Prospects show or something. It's a really good podcast. I definitely recommend checking it out. Those guys are awesome. Chris Peters, Cam Robinson. Like, I've gotten a lot of intel from them just because they're so active and such great scouts, and just like they're honestly like insiders at this point too, especially Cam Robinson. Like, I keep up with his Twitter stuff. But anyway, as of like an hour or two ago, I'm filming this on Wednesday the 25th, by the way, and the draft's on Friday the 27th, obviously. But I'll probably upload this tomorrow. I don't know. We'll have to see. But Chris Peters, about 2 hours ago, posted another article describing kind of the buzz going around. A lot of people have posted articles kind of describing the buzz. But here he writes, I know I put this in my mock draft and it caused a stir, but I have spoken with numerous sources who say that San Jose Sharks have not finalized their choice on number 2. There is a legitimate debate between Michael Misa and Anton Frondell for that slot. I have also heard there could be a third forward that they have in the debate. More people that I have talked to since that mock draft came out believe the most likely result is that the Sharks do end up taking Michael Misa at number 2. So basically, no one really knows what's going on. Usually, like last year, if you guys remember the Levshunov and Ivan Demidov kind of debate in Chicago and what was going on with that, I think it did come down to the wire because obviously there was that trade last year that was almost fireworks at the top of the 2024 NHL draft, excuse me, but with Columbus, but they really wanted Caden Lindstrom, and we really don't know how that's going to pan out because he was injured this past season. But honestly, like, these teams kind of fall in love with their prospects if they're like kind of not like guaranteed to go there, but like last year it kind of felt obvious like Caden Lindstrom would be available there, so they really wanted to pick him there if he was, and he ended up being there. So but anyway, I kind of want to compare and contrast the two because who knows what's going to happen. Hopefully. There was also the video of Mike Greer earlier talking on an interview, and he was talking about both prospects, and everyone in the comments is trying to read into his body language. It's kind of funny. But okay, this definitely is like some sort of bias, but I do believe he was talking about Frondell in a more positive light. Just from what I saw, he kind of lit up. He kind of talked about his achievements a little bit more. He kind of talked about and spoke about how Misa was just kind of a great kid and very talented. But Frondell, I think he went into a little more detail, but that could be just like crazy Chicago sports fan of me, you know? Starting off with Michael Misa, who, as I said before, is my favorite. Misa is a 6'1", 182-pound left shot center, and this year, in 65 games played, he put up 62 goals, 72 assists, and 134 points for the OHL's Saginaw Spirit. Kind of reading off of what I put together here in my notes. I put together a few like sources from different outlets, and I'll read them too, but I won't put up too many screenshots or anything. I'll put up a few rundowns, but most of the stuff is behind a paywall, and people work really hard, so I'm not gonna butt it up. But basically, He's a great skater, especially his edge work. He's kind of like Connor Bedard in that sense with the edge work, but he really has another gear when it comes to straight line speed. Um, he's not Connor McDavid by any means, but he really, really kind of steps on that gas and like I don't know. He's kind of like a Patrick Kane in the sense where he's kind of got that sneaky speed, but after a while you kind of get used to it, and you're like, oh man. And most other fan bases won't really look at it, but like if he's on your team, you know he's got that gear. But basically, he's got a high end shot with a powerful release and elite hockey IQ. I think he'd slot perfectly with Bedard and Nazar, and maybe on one of those as a line. Maybe he'll be a winger, maybe he'll be a center. We don't really know because obviously there's debate still if Nazar and Bedard are both centers. Kind of having that very similar physical profile of 5'9", 5'10 ish right hand shots. Is that the modern NHL center? From recent NHL champions, not really. But that's definitely getting ahead of myself here because obviously he's not on the team yet, and honestly, the draft is in 2 days from now. So we'll have to see. Basically, to continue on here, he's got great puck control and passing, and he plays at a very high pace. When I alluded to the skating earlier, it really does help him kind of move around the ice, especially with his hockey IQ and his just sense to where to put the puck. It's a really good combo. As his downsides, like I said, Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, we don't really know if they're going to be centers because their two-way game hasn't really been there. Nazar's kind of been developing it, and same with Bedard, but we'll have to see because we just don't know, like I said earlier. But basically, to his downsides, he's not a center in some eyes, and he's only an okay two-way player, but he can certainly improve, and he's definitely going to need to at the NHL level. But that's not kind of my worries at this point. I just think his offense would completely change this team. And, like, he's definitely not generational, but elite. Elite is what I think. Just from watching this guy and just breaking down his tape. I'm no scout by any means, but from what all the scouts have said and just putting my two own eyes on it, it's really something special. And fun fact about him, he did earn that exceptional player status, and he's really lived up to it. First 2 seasons, great seasons, don't get me wrong, but last year in his draft year, he really took off. And in his draft year, he had 2.06 points per game, putting him ahead of names like Matthew Tkachuk, Mitch Marner, and John Tavares, also not far behind the likes of Patrick Kane and Connor McDavid, which, if you know a thing or two about hockey, those guys aren't bad at the game. They are very good, in fact, and lots of them will be Hall of Famers. And his offensive ceiling is just through the roof. And if you want to compare it to Demidov last year and just possibly losing out on Demidov, if that's what you want to see it for the Chicago Blackhawks, and going with Levshunov last year, even though, like I said earlier, Levshunov's going to be a great player in my eyes, but Demidov really in his first game against the Blackhawks when he put up 2 points, like, man, that really stung to watch as a Hawks fan. I'm not gonna lie. I think we all felt that. But basically, I think he does possess that offensive ability that just takes your team to another level. To quote some scouts, like I said earlier, some of these are behind paywalls, so I'm not gonna put screenshots up, but I will read them. Chris Peters of Flow Hockey, who I mentioned earlier as kind of propelling this whole thing forward, says, quote, he has excellent hands and an ability to spot plays. He processes the game at speed, and when he's got his competitive drive going, he can play a physical enough game to really put pressure on opposing players. And at 6'1", he's not small. And he could definitely grow into his frame, and I think he's definitely going to. He's only 18 years old, and that's what happens when you develop in the NHL. And I don't think he would be played immediately in the NHL by any means. Maybe they'd do it, but I think he'd definitely not start there. But maybe with these CHL guys, you never know. But basically, his offensive ceiling is just through the roof. And honestly, oh my goodness, if I was Kyle Davidson and he slipped down to number 3, I would be on that immediately, and I would be so mad, especially after last year. If Michael Misa is there and they take a Caleb Denoyer, which I also really like, I think he's a great prospect, and they pass on Misa, I will actually, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably throw my phone through the screen. Well, to continue now, Corey Pronman of The Athletic says Misa won't run guys over, but he competes well and is diligent without the puck. He projects as a star number one setter in the NHL that you can build a winning team around. And that's all you need, basically. And yes, those defensive traits, and yes, I'm a Misa defender here, but he can definitely develop into it. And yes, some people are going to be like, we need defense because of Bedard and Nazar and their size and being high offensive skill players. This D-core is coming up, and also I think they will develop into that, but our offense is definitely not complete. Switching gears now, Anton Frondell is a 6'1" and a quarter, 204-pound left shot center/wing. In 29 games last year for Djurgårdens in the Swedish 1 League, he put up 11 goals and 14 assists for 25 points, which has been heavily kind of criticized, which I don't even think criticized is the right word. It's kind of been, I don't know, thrown out there that he only put up 7 points in 10 games at his own age level, but he put up 25 points in 29 games at an age level where he's playing with grown men that have already developed, and he did much better there, which is very interesting, but it kind of does happen. You kind of see it in the NHL. There's some players that, they might come from college and they maybe weren't as effective in college, or maybe the minors. Let's say the Rockford IceHogs system where they were traded or signed from somewhere, and they kind of just find another gear at the NHL. And yes, that's development teams, it's all that sort of stuff, but it is really kind of a matter of fit. And I think that's nothing to really think about twice, because Anton Frondell, even though he's not my personal pick, he's got size, he's got the weight. He's only a little bit taller than Michael Misa, but he's bigger. He's a lot bigger, and he definitely uses his frame better. He's not that explosive skater that Michael Misa is, but he's a solid skater, and he's kind of been called a Swiss Army knife. He kind of does it all. He's got offensive skill, defensive skill. He's got the smarts. He can play on the power play, and he's got a really, really nice shot. He's just a fantastic complementary player, and don't get me wrong, I really want Misa, but if we landed Frondell, I wouldn't complain, because honestly, him, Denoye, or Michael Misa, I think just would be fantastic for this team, and I really don't want to trade this pick. We'll get into that later, maybe like a 30-second discussion, but I really want to make the pick here, and I think Anton Frondell would be a very nice one. Like I said, physicality, he can take it to another level as he develops, but he does use his body well, especially positioning himself. And he's not as elite offensively to Michael Misa, like I said, but he does have consistently great body positioning and just consistently good positioning with where he's supposed to be and just identifying a play. I kind of personally believe, like I said earlier, he's a complementary player, so I think he's got a very high NHL floor. I don't think, I don't want to call him bust proof. There's always things that could happen, injury, all those things, but I don't want to talk about. But I just think he'll be a very solid player. And at his height, I don't think he's got as nearly a high of a ceiling as a Michael Misa, but I think he's got a very high floor, which could be attractive to these teams in the lottery like the Blackhawks are. One of his main qualities that do really appeal to me is the fact that he loves to attack the middle and kind of get into those dirty areas, and that's just exactly what the Hawks need. Shout out to CHGO. Last year they pulled up the heat maps a lot, and everyone on Blackhawks Twitter, they kind of saw how perimeter of the team the Blackhawks were, and it's really frustrating. This isn't a Luke Richardson bash, by the way. I really liked him as a coach, but too bad it didn't work. But we never really got into those dirty areas, and as a perimeter team, you don't really win much, and that's kind of what happened last season. That's why we're in this position. So a player like that, Misa does it too, but Anton Frondell is very, very, very skilled at it. Reading from Scouts now, once again, Chris Peters of Flow Hockey, and this is similar to the Misa thing with his points per game being with some pretty fine company. After registering 0.86 points per game in the Allsvenskan, Frondell is without peer among U18 players at that level of hockey. His per-game production outpaces that of William Nylander, David Pastrnak, and Philip Forsberg at the same age. And when you kind of compare those, not to backtrack on Misa here just because I'm so in love with that player, but his names were fantastic. Frondell's are fantastic. They really, really produce well at their levels. And yes, Michael Misa was in the OHL, which is definitely weaker competition than grown men, which kind of goes to a point of Frondell. I don't want to get too much in the debate here during the Frondell portion, but just something to keep in mind. Continuing on, like Corey Pronman said, Frondell's season started off slow in part due to injury, which I don't think affected him too much, definitely in the beginning, but I don't think it's a concern necessarily. But he was very good versus men in the Allsvenskan in the second half of the season. Despite his average size, which I don't completely agree with, 6'1" and a quarter, definitely, and 200 pounds, he definitely has room to grow into that frame too. I wouldn't call that average necessarily, but he says, despite his average size, he has a translatable style of play to the NHL that appeals to scouts. Frondell is a good playmaker, but he's also a very dangerous shooter with a bullet shot that projects to beat NHL goalies from range. And that's kind of his main offensive trait, per se. He's got a really, really, really nice and hard shot, picks his spots well. Like I said, you can't really go wrong with an Anton Frondell, and I think that's why the Sharks are so interested, because even though people are like kind of split on where they'll go, there definitely is some interest, or at least I don't think it's fully smokescreen. I think they like the way Greer talked about it today or yesterday, whenever that interview was. It just he really kind of sort of lit up in a way, and he kind of like touched up on all his little achievements. And I really do think they're interested, even if they know they're not going to draft him. They might still be weighing it right now, and that's sometimes what the draft comes down to. Some teams have their minds made up like month before. I mean, it depends how high you are too, and how unpredictable the draft is. When the Connor Bedard draft came around in 2023, I don't think the Blackhawks really had to think much. But yeah. Okay, I originally had a longer segment for this last part of the video, but since yesterday, the JJ Peterka news came out, and that was one of the things I had in here as a possibility for the Blackhawks, with trading that third overall pick possibly, or just something else. So I just decided to re-record this and just kind of make it shorter because it was kind of dragging on a little long too. But just today, specifically like Thursday, the night before the draft, it has really picked up steam. Like a few hours ago, Cam Robinson, who I said earlier has been pushing this heavily, and he's kind of changed his mind. He was like, oh, I'm hearing it, and then it's like, oh, never mind, people are telling me about Misa, and then out of nowhere, he kind of flipped it again and was like, never mind, Frondell is definitely where this is heading for the Sharks. And as a Blackhawks fan, and just seeing the fan base on Twitter freaking out has just kind of been hilarious. You know, all the alt accounts pretending to be Sharks fans, trying to manifest Frondell, especially after last year. And I think we're all fine with Levshunov, but, you know, not having Demidov and that high-skilled offensive weapon kind of stung a little bit. But if we land Misa, like, I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, that's the thing. Just today, it's picked up so much. Like, in the past few hours, about an hour ago, Ryan Kennedy of the Hockey News, the editor-in-chief of the Hockey News, says, just landed in Los Angeles, and the hot rumor is that Anton Frondell is going to go number 2 to the Sharks. When credible people start saying these things, it really kind of starts playing with your nerves a little bit. Just kind of this dangling in front of us, and I don't know. You know, Frondell would be a fantastic player, but I'm not going to hide anymore. I love Michael Misa, and I'm just with the rest of this fan base. But basically, yeah, sorry that end of this video kind of just ended abruptly, but just wanted to add that little nugget in here. But comment anything that you want to change about this video, anything you disagree with, agree with, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.